Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. I am delighted to be joined by Chris McAwain. Chris hasn't done a couple of all-nighters. He's just not feeling 100% match fit, but he is here. He is here, and it's great to see you, Chris. A massive day today, not only in respect to getting the football back after an international break, and it's always a pleasure to get the games back after the international football. We're going to Rugby Park, so the dynamic there is that has proved to be a difficult venue for Brendan Rodgers' teams in the past. Both times he's been at the football club, so we're dealing with that. And then, of course, we are going to have a look at some players that we have not seen yet in relation to the new arrivals. And we are going to talk about the starting 11. But there is also the backdrop, of course, of the 12-minute walk-in, which we will be talking about in respect of the mood in and around the stadium, in and around the bars before the walk to the stadium. It is fully charged in respect of the 12-minute walk-in. Before we get to the team, just want to remind everybody, no one's being forced to do anything. And that's the most important thing. There is not a picket line, and you will not be treated as though you're crossing a picket line if you're at that game today. And that's the big thing. This decision was made after consultation with almost 40,000 survey applications that were filled in, and also I think it's 450, closer to 450 Celtic groups, which involved all the largest associations. So it's not a knee-jerk reaction. It has been done in consultation with, and it has been a democratic process. And the decision was made that there would be a 12-minute walk-in to show the board and to highlight and amplify the message, Chris. And it has done that all week because everybody's talking about this in relation to the press. I mean, you know for a fact that today the game is going out live to a global audience, and this will be discussed.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it's been such an interesting week, or a couple of weeks actually, as this has developed. And I agree with you. I think the key thing here is, look, there's no mandate to take any sort of action here as a Celtic supporter. It is, for me, it's the purview of a Celtic fan to support the team in whichever way they see fit, and it's certainly not our place to tell them what they should and shouldn't do. But I think you're right to outline the process that sat behind this, which was a democratic process, and it involved many diverse opinions, many diverse groups, all commonly affiliated with Celtic in some way, shape, or form. And the action that was taken. And look, when it was announced that it was going to be a 12-minute walk-in, so waiting 12 minutes before entering the stadium, I had concerns about that because I'm a little bit similar to, the viewpoint that Jim Orr gave a couple of weeks back, which is, keep the action against the board and the club hierarchy and the decision-making process separate from supporting the team on the park. So, I've got a slightly different view to a lot of people in terms of the way I would have, wanted to see action take place. With that said, the fact that this went through due process, and as you've rightly said, when you take into account factors like the media exposure, the fact that, certain alumni who are very well connected, like Chris Sutton, for example, very, very ingrained in mainstream media, sports reporting, carries a lot of respect, a lot of weight, quite rightly so. It's put focus on this. You've been across multiple channels talking about the reasons why we're doing this. I think that the 12-minute element, what it represents, the fans' role and the success of the team, and really emphasising that also lends weight to this sort of action. And then when you couple that, which I'm sure we'll come on to talk about it in more detail, but when you couple that with Brendan Rodgers' press conference, right, which I thought was incredibly well handled by our manager. I thought he came out of it, with so much respect and so much dignity. And he didn't condemn the fans. He didn't condemn the action. He actually, spoke very much from a fan's perspective, which I think, again, lends credibility to this type of action. Just my opinion. And because of all of those factors, I'm 100% behind every supporter today in terms of what action to take. But I hope firmly that the action that is taken today is the beginning of really trying to get a message through to certain elements of the club that, we will not be shouted down, we will not be ignored. And the passion that we hold for our club means that we want to see positive change in the way it's run, in how it progresses into the future, and what we as supporters, and indeed future supporters, future generations of supporters, can hope to expect from the team.
The big thing for me as well, Chris, this is not knee-jerk. Anyone from
No.
outside looking in always uses, you've won 13 leagues out of 14. Let's lay it on the table right now, right? Celtic have failed to qualify for the Champions League through a qualifier 7 times out of 9 attempts, right? The latest one was the tipping point. The latest transfer window was the tipping point. If you want to start talking about what David Lowe mentioned on Friday night on This Is Acsom, where we are led up the hill and then we're brought all the way back down again. Let's go back to Seville, 2003. European final, the UEFA Cup final in Seville. We build it up to that stage. We fail to capitalise on it. And we come back down. And there's a downsizing process in place. Gordon Strachan somehow, with the funds that he had available, takes us to 2 back-to-back last 16s. How did we strengthen the team? When it comes into his 4th season, did we give him what the tools he required in the January? No, we didn't. We did exactly the same as we do historically under this regime. You then look at the next process of us doing something in Europe. People remember the Barcelona for all the right reasons, the Barcelona victory, but that led us to the last 16 where we played Juventus. And what happened was we dismantled the team. Fraser Forster, Victor Wanyama, Gary Hooper, Joe Ledley, and Kelvin Wilson all sold from that squad. So we get led up and we get brought back down. The latest example of this, 7 months ago, we go toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich. We are seconds away from taking them into extra time. There are no options for Brendan Rodgers on the bench. Have a look at the subs we made in that game. No options on the bench. We're Kyogo-less. We are Kyogo-less going into these games. And we don't have the left back that we went down to London to sign in the January. In these games, we get led up and then we get brought right back down. This transfer window was another example of it, where we're trying to buy cheap. How many of the new signings aren't even in the squad? And I'm talking Inamura, nowhere to be seen. Yamada, Simpson Pusey, nowhere to be seen. Yes. Callum Osmond. These players have all been brought in relatively cheap, relatively short term in the example of Simpson Pusey, and they're not even in the Europa League squad, and they're not in the squad today. So this is all about the current board having a completely different vision for this football club compared to A, the manager, and B, a great many of the fans. I'm going to have a look at the team. And then I think it's only right to actually discuss the press conference on Friday, because we've not had a chance on Acsom to dig into that. This will be the first time that we've discussed it. This is the start 11 for today. We've got Kasper Schmeichel in goals, and I'm delighted to see that Donovan is starting. He's starting at right back due to the injury that obviously kept Tony Ralston out of the Scotland setup. And Kieran Tierney was also kept out of the Scotland setup, and he was spoken about at the press conference, and it was pretty clear that in terms of his fitness, he would make it into the squad. Tony Ralston wouldn't, and that's exactly what's happened, although KT is clearly not 100% fit to start today's game. So at left back, we have the man who played 18 minutes against Rangers, Marcelo Saracchi, and he hadn't played a great deal of football leading into that game. So big test for him at left back. And then the 2 centre-halves at the moment are indeed Cameron Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales. Now, if you want to have a look at the bench at this stage, Chris, because you're then looking at your options in terms of the defensive area. So Sinisalo is on the bench. And then you look along here and you've got Dane Murray. And obviously, the aforementioned Kieran Tierney. So there's no space in there for people like Inamura, Simpson Pusey, but also Austin Trusty. He wasn't asked about, he wasn't spoken about on Friday. It would be interesting to know where we are with Trusty. How happy are you with the defence? Let's kickstart this discussion around that defence. Obviously, they've never played together.
Yeah, I think I'm like you. I think the biggest positive there is, and it's not even.
They finished the game. Sorry, they finished the game against Straight. But in terms of a back five, that back five has never started the game for.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And just go back to my point there. I think I'm very similar to you. I think even leaving today's game in isolation aside, seeing Kobe Donovan retain his place and obviously retain the trust of the manager to come in is great, because we've been crying out for that. So really good to see the young lad come in, and hope he has another good performance today. I don't want him to just be a placeholder because players like Ralston are injured, I want to see Kobe Donovan really take his opportunity. So looking forward to seeing that. The Carter Vickers Scales partnership, I've got no issues with. I think they've proven this season that they are, they are the first choice for the manager. I think they're capable of doing a job both domestically and as we've seen several times in Europe as well. Sirachi, very difficult to make an assessment of. I thought when he came on against Rangers, I thought he looked relatively comfortable in what was a pretty uncomfortable game. Let's be honest. But again, keen to see more of what he can do. Again, we talk a lot about the pitch, the surface that they play on today, so it might be a bit of a rude awakening for him coming to play on a Kilmarnock's plastic pitch. But yeah, good opportunity for him to step in and show that he can be the capable deputy, I think, to Kieran Tierney. Also, we want to have that confidence that we can manage Kieran Tierney's fitness as he gets back to kind of regular week-on-week football, which is where we need him to be and get him through to that, able to hit the 80, 85, 90 minute mark. I mean, look, a lot of people have spoken about Kieran Tierney not being able to finish games. I'm less concerned about that because that's why you have a bench, right? If he has a great 70 minutes, I don't mind getting taken off there. Where I would have an issue is if he's not performing throughout the 60 or 70 minutes that he is playing. And then we're looking at bringing on even less of a capable player at that point. So I think I'm not worried about Kieran Tierney at this point, but I am keen to see Sirachi step up and show that he can be the deputy.
You know this, Chris, right? I was with John Hartson, name drop of the day, John Hartson on Friday night, and he spoke about the amount of games where he came off at 60, 65, 70 minutes. Did anyone have any concerns about John Hartson when he was scoring 100+ goals for Celtic in the Martin O'Neill era? No, they didn't. Kieran Tierney has been spoken about on a regular basis by Brendan Rodgers. He has not played this intensity and this level of football week in, week out for some time, and he is being managed back to full fitness. Anyone who thinks that Sirachi is a better bet than Kieran Tierney at this stage after 18 minutes of football against Rangers, I think has got a fixed narrative in their mind about what Kieran Tierney is capable of since coming back to this football club. I think it's a nonsense Kieran Tierney would have started today if he was 100% fit. It's great to have Sirachi as part of the squad. I'm really looking forward to seeing him today, starting a game. And I hope we also see Kieran Tierney coming into the fray. I share your views on Donovan. I want to know more about where we are with Trusty. And not because I think Scales should get dropped, by the way, because I think Scales has been our best defender this season. But we need to know what the situation is with Austin Trusty from a squad management perspective. Now, you look at the midfield three. We spoke on Friday about changing the shape. I loved the idea that Alan Morrison had. It was exciting to see a back three and all that, but in the back of my mind, I didn't think it would happen. McGregor, and I'm assuming, looking at the other two guys, I'm assuming he's going to stick as the holding midfielder, the number 6, with the two number 8s, Hatate and Nygren. Hatate playing to the left, Nygren playing to the right. And there's plenty of creativity in the two number 8s. We didn't see much of that against Rangers, though, Chris.
No, I think the general consensus after that game is that Nygren, as much as we've praised him, I don't think we see the best of him when he's moved out wide. I think he's definitely much more capable playing in the central midfield. So I'm pleased to see him back there. We've got to remember, Nygren has only come into the team in the summer, right? He's playing with new teammates. It's a different country, different level of football. As much as I think we've seen some really good moments from him, he's going to take time to build up that partnership, not only with Hatate, but with Callum McGregor and then the players around him as well. And, we'll come to it, but, you also have to look in front of him and to the sides. We've got 2 new players there and plus 1 player who's not really been playing up front much. So it's going to take time for players like Nygren and indeed Hatate and Callum McGregor to work in, their partnership, that kind of 3-way partnership, figure out who they're going to link with out on the wide areas as well, and really adapt to the manager's, style of play. But, we have seen a lot of encouraging signs from Nygren, for example. He does look like a player who uses the ball well. He does look like a player with great distribution. He's got an eye for the creative, kind of innovative pass. Possibly, maybe, I think he does it effectively, but in a simpler manner than Rio Hatate. Rio Hatate tends to do more of the spectacular when it comes to being creative and innovative. And I think because of that, it doesn't come off quite as consistently as it does with Nygren. But I'm hoping that the two of them will complement each other. I think Rio Hatate is the more energetic of the players. He's definitely got more running in him. We've seen him run himself into the ground in certain games, which I quite like seeing. And I think between the two of them, I'm hoping they'll take some of the burden away from Callum McGregor, because Callum is so vital to the team when he's allowed to play his game. But I think he's also the point of nullification for other teams. I think they if we allow Callum McGregor to get isolated against any opposition, I think it dulls our ability to play through that midfield, because he's so vital to that, connecting the defence to the midfield or the wing or the forward players. So, I'm hoping that over time they'll cultivate a really good partnership. But I think it's the strongest, based on what we've seen this season, I think it's the strongest central midfield we can play.
It's the central midfield at this point that I would play, and I know that my big mate Ewan Martin, I don't know if you're related to Russell, mate, but good job if you are. I don't know if you're if you are, but we have a ding dong in relation to your man Engels. Engels is on the bench, and I'd have him on the bench today.
Yes.
I think that's only right based on performance.
Yeah,
Engels would start on the bench. I'm not writing him off. I'm absolutely not writing him off as a player and as an important part of this squad going forward. But based on what I've seen this season, I think Nygren is. He's been the best. He's been the best midfielder, Callum McGregor included. Nygren has been the best, most productive midfielder that we've had. Hatate, Brendan Rodgers spoke about getting into his head. It took him longer than he had expected. Hatate's at the same stage as Maiden. Dyson Maeda. Rio Hatate is at the same stage of his Celtic career as Dyson, right? Came in, signed on the same day, has got the same experience, has won the same trophies. The two of them have, and they've come to this point in their career where perhaps, although this hasn't been made public, this is me just summarising and surmising, perhaps the pair of them are at that stage where maybe they need to take the next step in their own career. But in the meantime, I want to see the Rio that we know what he can do in terms of, pulling something out the bag, in terms of scoring a goal out of nothing, in terms of making that pass. And it might be the fourth or the fifth attempt, but making that pass that creates something that nobody else on the park can create. That's what Rio Hatate is good at. Listen, you're no leaving. At least until January. So you just need to knuckle down, you need to focus on the team, and Brendan Rodgers, I think, is the man to be able to do that. So Rio Hatate, I want to see a good performance from him today. Callum McGregor comes in for a lot of stick. He's come in for a hell of a lot of stick. I'm not sure if I don't know if he's a defensive mid. I don't know if that's his best position, but that's where he's playing today, right? And everything will go through him. All the passing from Carter Vickers and Scales will go to Callum McGregor, and he, I hope, will be better served by the three up top, because what he needs to be able to ping the passes into the pockets of space behind the fullbacks, and also he needs Dyson Maeda to do that run that we spoke about. He never did. And he never did it enough anyway, where he's running towards McGregor and the space created behind him. It goes out wide, Maeda's in the middle for the ball coming in. So I think Callum McGregor hasn't been best served with that. So that's the caveat for me, Chris. He hasn't had the wing play. He's not had that man in the middle because Ida, let's be honest, his form was not great this season. Wasn't doing that. And today, we're going to have an opportunity, Chris, to see a front line that, and by the way, my only concern is that both the left and the right winger haven't played much football on the right. They can both play right wing. But for an example, Sebastian Konutski, if you look at his overall games in senior football, something like an eighth of his games have been played on the right wing. So it's not as though he is a natural right winger, but I presume, will start on the right wing today with Balikwisha on the left and obviously Maeda through the middle. But at least we have two wingers on the park, Chris. Neither of whom want to leave the football club because they've just arrived, and I'm really looking forward to the energy that they bring.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, it's there's been so much outside of the on-field stuff that's been spoken about, and actually over the last 24 to 48 hours, I've started to get quite excited about the match and just the football inside. And as much as we've denigrated the recruitment process and it's been spoken about, we've got new players on the door, right? And as soon as these guys are Celtic players and they pull on the shirt, I'm behind them 100%, right? I want them to do their talking on the pitch. I'll judge them now based on what they produce on the pitch. So I'm not going to prejudge them because of the manner they arrived at the club. With Tunetki, with Balikwisha, we've seen a little bit of it in the match against Rangers. I think it would be very harsh to judge him on that. I wasn't massively happy with what I saw from him, but I can sort of understand, getting thrown into that cauldron under those circumstances. It's not going to be easy for a player. So, get us a kind of pass for that. I think now that the transfer window's over, that this is the team the manager's got to focus on. 2 new wingers in, which we've been crying out for, right? So we've got them. I want to see from both wingers today, I want to see bravery. I want to see them take accountability. I want them to go and take players on. That's what I want my winger to do. Get to the byline, produce something for the striker, which in today's case is Dyson Maeda. We might get to see Kelechi in action later on, hopefully. But I want to see these guys, showcase their skills a little bit today. Again, we've mentioned it, pitch is maybe not the best one to do it on. It's going to be quite a challenging game, but really quite excited to see what they can both bring, particularly Taneke, because I've not seen enough of him. I've kind of deliberately tried to avoid the highlights packages on YouTube. But from what I understand, he's pacey. He is a player that likes to take a man on. He's very forward-thinking, one of these kind of progressive players. And look, if he's not playing on his comfortable side, great, cut inside. Do the old Aidan McGeady thing, cut inside, and shows what you can do. But all I would say is, be brave. Be brave as wingers.
What I want to see today from the 2 wingers, Chris, and this obviously comes back to the manager, is that if both of them are not natural right wingers, but they have played there, switch it and switch it regularly. Switch it every 20 minutes if you need to. Yeah, absolutely, and run at the other defender and don't give them time to settle into their game. And that's something that I would like to see. Dyson Maeda, of course, lots of speculation around the interview that he gave when he was on international duty. And I'm not surprised. I'm going to be honest. I'm not surprised. And in relation to some of the chances that he's missed, Brendan Rodgers, we're going to get to this once we run through the bench and the Kelly team. Brendan Rodgers touched on this on Friday, and he had known about Dyson Maeda since February. So you're not telling me that since February Dyson Maeda has been an empty jersey, because he hasn't. He hasn't. There's been a few moments this season. People might touch on the cup final 1v1 or the game against Rangers 1v1 where there was a purple patch during the season where Maeda, everything he touched turned to gold. But don't forget the Maeda who would hit the Green Brigade with a shot, right? Because that's still in him as well. So, but it's difficult for players, Chris, in relation to being unsettled. Let's not forget that these guys are not robots. They are often spoken about just like commodity. It's like buy, sell, and it's a wee pawns and a game of chess. These guys are human. It gets to them. What I'm hoping for today is that who knows what's going to happen in January and beyond. Brendan doesn't even want to talk about that, and rightly so. But see, between now and then, just focus 100% on Celtic. And that's what we need from Dyson as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned the same about Rio Hatate, and I've got no fears over either player. I think they'll conduct themselves with the utmost professionalism, because I think they have done up to this point. Dyson Maeda, for me, I thought his statement was frank. I thought it was honest. I didn't really necessarily see the wrong on it. I'm not a fan of statements like that being made public, because I think it's, people will have a certain perspective or a certain view on it, and that won't always be positive. But I thought the key point of what Dyson Maeda said, he says, look, the move didn't work out. I'm staying at Celtic for the time being, and I'll give my best for the club. That's fine. That is all I would ask of the player. I think you're right. I think players are human beings. Things will they'll get distracted by certain things. They'll have to work harder to keep their mentality and their focus where it needs to be. But look, nothing can happen now until between now and January. So use the opportunity to showcase what you can do. Get yourself back into the transfer picture if that's what's going to happen in January. And never forget the possibility that, say, something changes between now and January, and Dyson says, you know what, I really believe now in the vision at Celtic. I'm going to stay here and continue to do well for the team. So I just think, look, he's maybe had the opportunity to go, he maybe had the desire to go, might still do it. That's absolutely fine. He's been upfront and honest about it. I think that speaks to his integrity, which is great. For me, just go out there, do your talking on the pitch.
Yeah, but the one thing I would say on the back of that then, Chris, is in an ideal world, we would be playing Champions League football this season. If we do really, really well in the Europa League, is that enough to make a player change his mind?
Well,
Is it?
do you know
Do you think?
I was thinking about this, right? And I was thinking about it as I was watching Brendan's press conference, and it got me thinking back to Seville. I mean, the Europa League is the equivalent of the competition we were in, right? And, I know when we're not in it and our rivals are, you kind of denigrate the competition. But look, it's a competition we're in. I would like to see us go on a run in the Europa League and go as far as we can. I want to see us progress in every tournament. I don't really necessarily care too much about the prestige of the tournament at this point because, look, Champions League is going for a season. It's happened. Can't do anything about it. It's gone. I would much rather have had us in there. But we've got the Europa League to look forward to. So give it a great shot because I remember the atmosphere on that run to Seville and the way the fans were feeling. And we weren't having a great season at that time, right? I mean, domestically, it wasn't really going our way. But
we won nothing that season.
Yeah.
We won 0.
Everybody remembers that run to Seville as the point where we thought we really started to believe we could do something, and we came so close, right? And you imagine if Brendan and this group of players could do something like that again, right? Now, I don't want it to happen at the expense of doing well domestically. That's still a bread and butter, but just what happens if we start to pick up some really good results? The new players that have came in really start to gel, and actually we start to see things happening on the park. Now, by the way, I'm keeping this completely separate from, us being disgruntled about the board and the business that's been done. That would change nothing for me, But purely from a point of view of could the manager build something, irrespective of all the other stuff that's going on, build something that really makes the fans think, you know what, this is a guy we want to take the team forward, and maybe it does put pressure on the board to say, give Brendan a 3-year deal, back him going forward. I think the best way to almost defy the challenges that he's had is to go and do something special on the pitch.
I'm sorry. It was just the look Rio Hattati gave the Kilmarnock mascot there when he tried to get a high five from him. Watch it back. Sorry, you were on a really well structured.
I was. Always happens.
Sorry, mate. What is it anyway? A squirrel? I don't know. Is it a squirrel? Probably. It's a squirrel, right?
Looks a bit nuts anyway.
It's a squirrel. I was just admiring the, people moan about how tight the Celtic tunnel is, right? And if you've ever done the tour and stuff, you'll know that the Celtic tunnel is particularly tight. And I was just looking at the Kilmarnock setup there because they had a camera on the Celtic team lining up coming out of the dressing room, and it genuinely looked like the kind of pavilion you would play at under 14 level if you ever played boys club football. So there you go. The teams are on the park, and the Kilmarnock lineup is on there as well. I'm expecting a very physical approach from Kilmarnock. I think that's what we've seen when Kettlewell has been at his previous football clubs. I think Ross County and Motherwell, and obviously with the officialdom as it is in Scottish football, they'll probably be allowed to be physical. I'm really keen to keep this running for the first 15 minutes of the game whilst keeping an eye on the game. So anybody who's tuning in, I understand if you're going to pop off and actually watch the action. But the reason we're doing that is because obviously we have been as vocal as we possibly can in providing a platform for the fan movement and also today's action as well. So we want to see how that transpires. And to be honest with you, a wee bit selfishly, I want to see what the impact of that is when they do come into the stadium, Chris. So we're going to keep this running for the next 15 minutes or so. I would love to see acknowledgement, and I'm going to talk about the press conference now from Friday. I'd love to see some kind of acknowledgement. Brendan Rodgers going into that press conference on Friday, I can guarantee you knew exactly what was going to be happening today. Chris Sutton taking up his commentary duties knew exactly what was going to be happening today as well. First thing I'm going to say about Tonetski, I've already got a new favourite player because he's wearing long sleeves. Brilliant. And I don't even mean Under Armour. None of this Under Armour nonsense. It's long sleeves. Outstanding young man. He's obviously come to Scotland and thought, nobody told me about how cold it is out here. No, it's an 80s and 90s throwback for me, the long-sleeved Celtic jersey. And Celtic jerseys don't shrink is one of the most famous and iconic quotes in Celtic's lexicon, if you like. And another one is that football without fans is nothing. We all know that it was Jockstein that said it. Some other football teams have tried to claim that it was Matt Busby that said that as well. But it wasn't. It was Jock, and we all know that. Right, so we're about at that moment where we're going to be kicking off. Celtic are kicking off. This is a wee bit unusual. We don't do this that often, but for the first 15 minutes of this game, it's more or less a watch-along. So I can understand if anybody drops off just before kick-off or just after. We're going to stay here to see what the impact is going to be with the fan action. This is not knee-jerk, and it's not one act of defiance. This is an ongoing escalatory process, Chris, and it's something that is going to be done in a democratic fashion between as many fans as we can. So the action is underway. Hopefully you've got an eye on it, Chris. I don't know if you can in the room that you're in.
I might be turning my head, but don't worry, I'm still very much focused on Acsom. So.
Perfect. Yeah. And Donovan gets an early touch of the ball, as does Sirachi now, who's in possession straight off the bat. He's found CCV. That was an unusual pass, actually, because he actually didn't pass it to the nearest man, which seems to happen in our final third too often. Yeah. And that it's been described as the horseshoe of death, Chris.
It is, and Brendan even referenced it. One of the things I enjoyed about Brendan's press conference was that he kind of owned and took responsibility for some of what we're seeing on the park, but he also spoke a little bit about what he's trying to do. It's this penetrative type of football, he wants to, find ways to kind of probe the defence and get in. I think, part of me thinks, is it a case of when we've watched this horseshoe of death and it's, based on what we're saying, we're not getting that penetration, we're not getting that creative spark and that direct sort of play. Is it because he's not had the personnel there to implement in his system? And I sometimes wonder does he place an onus on the players who come in to try and adapt to the way he wants to play? And that obviously would take time with players, because I don't get the impression that he adjusts his system to the players' characteristics. So if a player comes in and that's not the way he's used to playing, it is going to take him time to try and get into that style and that mode of playing. But yeah, I would like to see us certainly on the wings. I'd like to see us go a bit more direct. I want to see as I said earlier, I want to see our wingers in particular really try and probe the forward line. I thought the biggest tragedy against Rangers was the fact that we didn't test players like Suter, for example, who I watched. I watched yesterday in the Rangers match, and towards the end of the game, he was dead on his feet. And I thought, why did we not take advantage of that sort of thing? Use the players like Maeda, use the players like Balagwisha to really go and attack, that type of player. So looking to see it, and it's looking good at the moment. We're playing certainly on the front foot.
The big thing for me so far is the fact that we've got Tunetsky on the left, Balagwisha on the right. That's the first thing of note. Sirachi just plays the ball straight out. I mean, the surface as well, you're getting used to that as well. Sirachi's the thing with my concern there is he's not played much football. I mean, how on earth can you're building a player back into the rhythm of regular 2 games a week football for the first time in a while. And, Sirachi gets a start today because the very same reason that kept Kieran Tierney out the Scotland setup. Nothing to do with form, nothing to do with how he's played since he's come back. No big concerns. People who wanted Tierney to fail will be focusing on that. And I know that we did have a few that we ended up having to block because it was almost as if they had some kind of personal vendetta against Kieran Tierney. They never shut up about him. And it was always negative. That's a great move, actually, by Donovan, pushing forward, really, really deep into the Kilmarnock final third. He's direct. Brendan Rodgers has spoken about his attitude, his personality, the fact that he comes in to the squad as a young guy, just lost the ball incidentally, comes into the squad as a young boy, Chris, and doesn't show any weakness in terms of his mentality. A lot of people think, I'm just happy to be here. He's just grabbed it by the scruff of the neck, isn't he, young Donovan?
Yeah, and I think you've got to. I just think you don't get many opportunities as young footballers, particularly when you want to play. I mean, he's playing at the highest level in our country. He's playing for the top teams, so you have to take these opportunities and you have to show that you belong. And I think that's what we've kind of complained about a little bit, is that since Kieran Tierney, the aforementioned Kieran Tierney, came through, we've not really had someone who's looked a proper contender to do that. And the ones that have kind of moved on to other clubs before really taking that opportunity. Mm-hmm. If Colby Donovan takes his opportunity here, puts in a good performance, it makes the manager sit up and think, there's a player I can trust.
Yeah, Sirachi's demanding the ball from his fellow fullback, which isn't something we do that often. We normally go through the process of going through the
Some nice
two centre
football.
halves.
Nice.
Nygren's all over the park. That's what I like about him as well. The hard working nature. That's fair enough. We've just had Tuneski trying a shot from inside the Kilmarnock box. But as I say, thanks everybody for tuning in. Not many have dropped off, incidentally, and kudos to the Kilmarnock fans who are also failing to enter the stadium for kickoff, because I don't know if they're doing that in support of the Celtic action, because you know what happens, Chris, when you try to do something positive and you try to push for positive changes. Fans of other football clubs basically don't get it, call you entitled, call you spoiled, all this thing. By the way, there was a handball shout. Let's have a look at this. It was Tuneski coming in. Handball all day long. The question would be in terms of the natural position of that body.
Looked pretty natural. Be interesting.
It was quite tight. Yeah,
maybe joined by Sean later, so he'll probably give us a good view on that. But I thought that looked pretty natural to me.
It did. The arm didn't move. If anything, as soon as there was impact, he tried to move his arm even tighter to his body. So I think, had that been given against Celtic, I would have been very unhappy.
Always the way I measure it. I say if that was us, how would I feel about that? And yeah, I think if that had been given against us, I'd probably felt quite aggrieved. So, no problem. But I did only get one look at it, so happy to be challenged on that.
Yeah, and Tuneki's full,
looks in the mood. Looks in the mood.
He does look, and he looks great because he's got the sleeves. Got the full sleeves, man. Long sleeves. That's what we're all about.
I'm trying to think of the last player I can remember prominently wearing sleeves, and I've got a sneaky suspicion it may have been Chris Sutton. Is the one that stands out in my memory?
Nah, I remember we did have a few during kind of later Gordon Strachan era. That was Carter Vickers showing us why he plays centre half. Ball bounced off him in the box, and it was an easy save. But interestingly enough, Balakwisha takes the corner on the left-hand side as well. Obviously, when Engels is on the park, he takes everything. Nygren's been taking a lot of the corners, but Balakwisha's taking that one. That looked a bit soft, actually. I'd like to see that.
It was nice to see. I think it was that Nygren that came back actually to win the ball there.
Yeah,
that's positive. Good movement. It looked pretty quick.
Looked fair. Let's have a look at the. Is that it? Wow. No, that's not a free kick.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I would have said.
It's not a free kick. Not a free kick. But I mean, we spoke about that before the game. Any opportunity to break up the Celtic play, because actually Celtic were on the front foot and Nygren was breaking, having won the ball just in the kind of middle third. Celtic could have actually had a breakaway there, but obviously Beaton has given Kilmarnock the free kick and Celtic are defending that as we speak. Another big thing as well, and I'm going to bring it up because you know what, this isn't about anybody doing this through ego or for traction, and it was a democratic process and there are always risks attached, and one of the risks is that the players don't get the bounce that they would normally get if the stand behind Schmeichel was full and bouncing. Yes. So at this moment in time, I think Celtic have started off pretty positively on the front foot. Sirachi straight off the 7.5 minutes in, he's not doing the short 10-yard pass to whoever's closest to him. He's played twice into Carter Vickers, who has been on the other side of the park, right? And he's also been shouting and screaming for the ball from Donovan. He's now actually making a move. Yeah,
that's one of the things I'm liking about him. Is he's making himself available for the ball and he's asking for it as well. So nobody's shying away at the moment, which is good. I mean, they look well drilled. And I also think when you talk about they're not having the bounce of the fans coming in, Brendan will have had the team well drilled that this was going to happen, right? This is not a surprise protest. This is something that's been it's been spoken about widely. So I think the team will be well prepared for this. But based on what I've seen so far, we are starting with good energy. We're starting with the movement is very, very good. I think the use of the ball is good. It's very forward. We're not seeing the horseshoe of death at this point, and it's I mean, even given a surface,
well done,
good energy there. That's the Dyson we know, running in and challenging the goalkeeper and giving him no time. And I like that. I want to see that. We've seen it already with Nygren running back, not giving the Kilmarnock players any time on the ball. That's what we do well. When we show that kind of energy level, and we make other teams panic. I think that's when we profit the most from our style of play.
We excel. The only thing, and again, it's only 9 minutes into this game and an appearance against Rangers, is the fact that Balakwisha needs to be more direct, Chris. Don't turn back, run at them. run at them and keep running at them. Now,
It's my biggest frustration over modern wingers. It's like, look, your job is to beat that player and get the ball in. Even generally, wingers only have one player to beat, and if they beat them, they've got the opportunity to cross. So you've got to do it. Otherwise, you've got to show some sort of invention. Easy for me to say, that can lead to an opportunity.
It's a wee bit scrappy at the back at the moment. I think part of that is obviously when the ball is bouncing about. And that's exactly what it is. It's very, very scrappy. It's not on the deck.
It's hard to read where the ball's going to move.
Celtic, in terms of their defence, have to bring this back into the rhythm, because if it's balls just getting punted in there by Kilmarnock, we seem to panic a wee bit. And there was a moment there where Schmeichel couldn't find Scales, and we gave away possession. I can see the banner behind the goals there, sack the board. Many Celtic fans have gone in, and that was expected, and that was spoken about on Wednesday, and nobody was treated as if they were crossing a picket line, right?
Nor should it be.
The impact will still be felt. But as I was saying before I got annoyed at Beaton giving away a free kick for no reason, as I was saying before in relation to this, one of the biggest kind of things that I've heard in terms of criticism is, if Kilmarnock score in the first 12 minutes, it's your fault. It's the action group's fault. And you think to yourself in relation to that as well, that it's 12 minutes of pain for a lot of gain. So it's one of the ones as well, Chris, that you've got to suck it up for 12 minutes. And we're already 11 minutes into that. We're only 70 or 80 seconds away from seeing the impact of the fans coming in, and then we'll let you go away and enjoy the rest of the game, even though most of you have stuck with us, by the way, over 1,000 strong watching the live stream. So thank you for that. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I mean, look, I think the other thing a lot of people maybe need to understand is this is not the only action that's taking place. This is what supporters have decided is going to be the first step, and trying to cultivate some change at the club. This is not going to be the be all and end all. There are things happening in the background. There's discussions, there's engagement, there's collaboration. A lot of stuff that we want the team or the club to be part of.
The fans are on their way in.
See them coming in there. See them just in front of young Jay.
Here we go. The fans are coming in, right?
And it's getting coverage.
And it's being filmed. Exactly. Yeah, that's the point. It's being filmed to Sky's global audience. The fans are coming in now. Go and switch up your volume and let's have a look at the impact once that drum starts as well. And in the meantime, Celtic in possession. And here we go. The fans are in. And I hope, there you go, Brendan Rodgers clapping the fans there. That was beautiful to see.
Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely tremendous to see.
And actually, get a bit of applause from behind the board members there. But yeah, they are looking, and they're looking. Can I just say they're not looking overly chuffed with the action, but that's the point, right? So
I hope they're squirming at the action. I hope they're feeling very uncomfortable as Celtic fans after 210 minutes against Kairat Almaty, Chris. Yeah. I hope that's how uncomfortable that they're feeling. They are sitting there in the heated seats. There we go. I hope we score after this move. There you go. Instant impact. That would be nice to see.
It would be nice. But I think now that we've got the fans in, let's get to business. Let's continue playing the way we're playing, and hopefully we'll get something from the first half, because it's been promising so far.
It has been. I'll let everybody go back to the enjoyment of the game. Yeah, 1,200 strong. You haven't dropped off. Thank you, every single one of you. And at some point this season, hopefully we can do watch-alongs from the Celtic stand. That would be interesting as well. So anyway, go and enjoy the game, and we will see you at half-time on a Celtic State of Mind.
On the hoops.